Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
I welcome you in lecture regarding the transfer of technology through strategic alliance and joint venture, and this is lecture 16 mainly on special purpose vehicle, and in this particular lecture I will concentrate more on preparation of special purpose vehicle. Now, special purpose vehicle popularly known as SPV. Rather, most of the people use the word SPV instead of a special purpose vehicle. Now, before I go ahead, let me tell you what is this particular SPV all about, and then I will take you through what are the things you should do before you will go ahead in formation or incorporating the SPV. Now, to put it in a very simplest form, SPV is generally a business form. So, it might be companies, it might be a trust, and it might be even a LLP or the partnership. But you will find the SPV, whatever is incorporated or been promoted, are generally the companies. Trust, LLPs or the partnership are not a very chosen form of a business for the SPV, but it is also differ with the different country. In some country you will find people prefer more partnership because it is a flexible kind of a relationship between the parties who are promoting this particular organization, or which I have discussed with you before, that if it is a strategic alliance where it is less formal form of business which you wanted to promote out of the strategic alliance, then you might choose to go for a partnership. But if you are interested to go for a formal relationship, then it is always advisable that you should go for formation of the company or incorporation of the company. Now, the LLP has come into the existence last few years. So, many people, if it is service related and where you do not require to have a initial capital investment or large capital investment, you might even choose for LLP, because LLP is a simpler form even than that of a private limited company or a public limited company. Now, if you feel that the area where you are incorporating the company, which is require a formal business form, which is capital intensive, or the regulator in that particular sector suggest that the joint venture has to be formed as a company or special purpose vehicle as a company, then in that case it is suggested that you look into that particular sectoral regulation and form accordingly. So, if you need to have more capital intensity, then you should go for a public limited company. Otherwise, you can go for a private limited company too. Now, many of the time you will find this SPV is created for a specific and limited purpose. That means, you define that what purpose you are incorporating this particular SPV, which is according to the joint venture agreement or strategic alliance agreement, and whatever you have decided in that particular strategic alliance agreement or joint venture agreement, you put all those particular thing in the objective clause. So, that means, the purpose of this particular SPV is defined. Now, it is also for the limited period. That means, you wanted to carry out this particular joint venture maybe for 5 years, or you might want to renew that particular joint venture for another 5 years, and maybe after 10 or 15 years of time you want to put down this particular joint venture or strategic alliance. In that particular circumstances, you wind up once this particular time period is over. So, while you are forming the SPV, you should keep in the time period in mind, because time periods are important relating to the determination of the rights and the liability of the partner who are coming into this particular SPV. So, you should not create such clause within the SPV agreement or within the SPV document, which will create a problem for a SPV to exit from the market when this particular time comes to an end. So, this thing you should keep in the mind. Now, second thing is strategic alliance investment, as I have talked with you, may require the special purpose vehicle. So, which I have discussed with you in the previous module, that strategic alliance might not require a formation of any business organization, or even in case of the joint venture, if it is the informal joint venture, then you are not required to have a formation of any business organization or business firm. So, business, it is SPV is only required in those particular circumstances where you need to go for a separate business firm. Now, why you will go for a separate business firm is depending on the type of business which you wanted to incorporate or which you wanted to promote. It might be the intensity of fund which you require to have for this particular business, or it might be the regulatory reason which suggests that there should be some kind of a business firm where you are making the investment, or it might so happen that you want to have independent management and the sponsor or the promoter of this particular SPV or the partner of the joint venture want to keep themselves in distance in this new venture, then in that case also they can go for formation of SPV. Now, many of the time you will find the SPV is treated as a subsidiary of a holding company. That means, one of the company or one of the partner who is a partner in the joint venture, he is became a holding company of this particular SPV. So, it is depending on what kind of a business you wanted to promote and what the matter you wanted to address in the business, and accordingly you should form or incorporate this particular SPV. Now, assets and or the activities of the SPV are distinct from the parent companies and its promoter, and that is always you should keep in mind, because the moment you are going to mix it this particular two thing, your SPV might be in trouble, and I have discussed this particular point in detail when I was talking with you relating to the formation of the joint venture agreement or strategic alliance agreement, because there should be some kind of arm's length distance, even though you want to have a influence over the policy decision, but you should know that you should avoid to interfere in nitty-gritty of everyday's operation. Otherwise, there is every possibility that SPV which is been promoted might fail. But please remember, which I am going to discuss a little later, that most of the time the parent companies send their representative in the management as well as in the board which is newly formed. That means, the SPV which is newly formed. So, in one or other way around, they try to keep management close to their own company, but it is advisable that you should keep a distance from the parent company, otherwise the growth of the SPV might hamper. Now, let me take you to the next issues which you should keep in the mind while you are talking about the agreement of SA and JV partners or the promoters, which is commonly known as a promoters agreement, or which I have discussed with you in detail relating to strategic alliance and the joint venture agreement when I was discussed with you these particular issues. But it is also commonly known as a promoters agreement. Sometimes people call it as a shareholder agreement, whatever the name you call it, is not an issue. So, in this particular agreement, please be sure about the matter relating to the capital contributions, which is quite important issue, and I have talked with you in detail while I was talking with you in joint venture. And this particular capital contribution is important when you are forming the memorandum of association of the company, because at that particular point of time you have to mention what is the authorized capital and who is going to subscribe how much capital during the formation of the company. Now, then you need to talk about the matter of the management. That means, what should be the structure of the board, how many people will be executive director, how many people will be non-executive director, what should be their term, will they come from the parent company or the sponsor company or joint venture partner or strategic alliance partner. So, you need to be detailing these particular issues. And then if you have a specific terms of retirement circle, how this particular retirement is going to go, you need to write. Please remember, you cannot subordinate the provision of the statute, because the Companies Act says that after a particular period of time, some director will be retired. Now, please remember, when I am going to talk about the SPV, I am more going to focus on the companies only. I am not going to talk about the trust, partnership or LLP, because these are not very common form people choose in India relating to the formation of the SPV. So, my entire talk and the discussion will be relating to the company only, and kindly do not get confused on those particular issue. Relating to the trust is generally used in cases you have to hold something for the benefit of the joint venture members or somebody who is going to join in this particular joint venture in the future. So, that is a different ball game altogether than that of a formation of the company. So, I am not going to deal with this particular thing here, but it is important if you are transferring a particular technology through this particular joint venture, wherein you need to hold this particular technology through the escrow account, then in that trust is good. So, though trust is not very common thing, because in case of the joint venture, generally people want to produce something out of the technology which has been transferred to this particular joint venture entity, instead of holding that particular technology. But if you think that, well, you are transferring this particular technology because you wanted to do a further research on that particular technology to bring the superior technology out of that, then in that case it is good to form a trust. So, I am not going to discuss this particular trust issues more now. If it is possible in future, I am going to deal with this particular issue. The next issue is important issue is that you should talk about the entry and exit of the new partner, and I did discuss this particular issue in detail when I talked with you in joint venture agreement as well as strategic alliance. Because if you do not have that particular flexibility, there is a possibility that your joint venture might fail in the future, because when you have created the SPV, you are not sure that what should be the situation in down the line 2 years, 3 years or 5 years hence. So, there should be adequate provisions should be made, wherein you should allow some your existing partner to exit or dilute their stake, as well as the new partner to come in. Let me give some example which might give you some understanding about this. Like it might so happen the government decide that your foreign partner stake need to be diluted, because there is a change in the regulation. So, in that circumstances, if your foreign partner have kind of 49% in the JV, the foreign partner need to reduce that particular stake, and if it is said that you have to reduce up to 10%, then you have to reduce that. In that circumstances, you might want that new partner comes in the place where the foreign partner is reducing the stake, instead of you are buying that particular reduced stake. So, whatever the circumstances will be in future, accordingly you should have that particular provision, so that the exit and entry is become easier. Now, technology collaboration and cooling period is one of the very important thing which I have discussed before also, but let me caution you that when you are going to drop this particular cooling period, please do remember that you have to see the life of the technology. Most of the cases, life of technologies are generally varies according to the industry. Like in some industry you will find the shelf life of the technology is 3 months, in some industry you will find the shelf life of the technology is something around 10 years or 15 years. So, whatever the life of technology or whatever the business you are in, accordingly you decide the cooling period. Cooling period means during this particular period, whenever you are going to exit that particular joint venture, other person is not going to gain a commercial advantage by transferring that particular technology to some other person. But during that particular period of time, your partner might use that particular technology and keep on producing whatever they are producing as a part of the joint venture agreement. So, you need to decide this particular cooling period, and as I told you that it is depending on which sector you are carrying on the business. Now, let me take you to the next issues of incorporation of the SPV, and in my next subsequent lecture I am going to detail out this particular incorporation of SPV. So, in case of SPV, as I told to you that I am going to talk more on the companies only. I am not going to talk about the other forms, because they are not usually used, but in certain circumstances they do use. Now, in case of the company, if you are forming the company which is a public limited company, then you need to have a 7 or more member, and if you are forming a private limited company, then in that case you might have 2 or more person as a promoter of that particular company. Now, let me tell you, you might be wondering that if you have a 2 joint venture partner, from where you are going to get the 7 person to promote a public limited company. Answer is pretty simple. The law says that in the post incorporation there should be at least 7 member. So, some of the member should be your employee, and they are going to hold the shares in trust for you. So, that particular part can be taken care of by this particular process. And in case of private limited company, there is no as such problem, because 2 person can incorporate this particular company or promote the company. Now, other important issue, you should incorporate the SPV for the lawful purposes. Now, this lawful purpose is a wide connotation or wide meaning. Now, lawful purpose means any policy of the government or any law or any regulation or any guideline or any good governance norm which is issued by the government need to be complied with while you are promoting the company. So, you are interested to promote a company which is going to do a research on the livestock, like cattle or animals and all these things. Now, the law of the land says that, well, you cannot promote this kind of a company because it is a cruelty of the animal. So, you cannot incorporate a SPV on that particular area. Or somewhere the government says that some of the business is unethical in India, because the society do not permit. In those circumstances, you cannot promote a company on those particular things. So, you should check with your advisor or maybe the professionals that what comes within this concept of lawful purpose, because the lawful purpose is varies according to the time, according to the society, and maybe according to the political reign, because sometimes you will find some people take some decisions which is wherein the business is allowed, in some cases it is not allowed. Sometimes even it is depending on the financial and economic condition of that particular country. Like some sector you will find the FDI is allowed, and there is a 100% FDI is allowed, but in that particular sector the 100% FDI was not allowed 2 years back. It was only the 50%, or it was only the 30% or 20% or 15% was allowed. So, that is what you need to keep on checking this particular thing, that what is the lawful purpose. Now, then the next is promoter of the company. At least in case of the public company 7, and in case of a private company there should be 2, which I have talked with you. And when we are talking about the promoters, is basically indicating about those person who are going to subscribe the memorandum of association and article of the association. That means 7 person has to sign into that particular memorandum and article of the association. Now, who is a promoter? I believe I talked with you in the last lectures, but nevertheless, let me repeat it for your benefit. Promoters are those particular person who do everything for bringing companies into life. That means to incorporate the company. Now, in case of the joint venture or strategic alliance, promoters are those partners. That means the strategic alliance partner as well as joint venture partner. Please do remember, most of the cases this strategic alliance partner and the joint venture partners are the company. So, they promote another company as a joint venture company. And promoter, if you look into the definition of Companies Act as well as the security laws, that means SEBI regulation, today you will find they gives elaborate definition of the promoter. Even if you look into the RBI definitions relating to the foreign investment or other sectoral law, you will find they keep on defining who is a promoter. To put it in a very precise manner, promoter is a person who will have a control over the company's management in a post incorporation. So, that is a test. Either this control might come through the holding of the shares, or it might the control might come some other process. But please do remember, any negative control will not be treated as control for the purpose of the promoter. Negative control means which generally creditor does. They said that, well, if you wanted to go for structural change or go for further investment, you need to come back to us, and then you need to apprise us relating to this particular issue. These are known as a negative control. So, this kind of a control is different than whatever the control I have used for the purpose of the promoter. Now, promoter, as I told you, they have to subscribe their name in the memorandum of association, and promoter must comply with the requirement of the Companies Act in respect of registration of the company. And once you do all this particular thing, you need to go to register of the company, under which state or jurisdiction you wanted to incorporate your company, and then you have to submit all the document. Now, in my next lecture, I am going to deal with what are the document and the thing which you need to comply while you are going for registration of a company. Now, key point you should keep in mind. So, these are in brief the points which you should keep while you are going for a formation of SPV. The capital requirement should be kept in the mind, and I have talked with you that you need to put the authorized capital, you need to talk about the issued capital, and I have detailed out that what kind of instrument you can make an investment while you are promoting the company, and while you are subscribing the memorandum, then how much capital investment you have made, you need to write, and later on in which phases how much capital you are going to invest, or if some partner want to dilute their stake into that particular company, in which phase manner, or in what manner they should dilute their stake. Everything should be you determine before you go for SPV. SPV must have an identity totally distinct from its promoter and sponsors, and I talked with you a lot on this particular issue. Please make it a arm's length distance. Don't try to interfere in day-to-day activity of the SPV. Then in that case, there is every possibility that it might go down. Or if if your partner is a foreign partner and they start remote controlling from the distance, it is very difficult. Sometimes even there might be a cultural conflict which might bring down the business. So, it is always advisable that you should create some kind of a distinct entity. You should keep in mind of off-balance sheet SPV. If it is formed, off-balance sheet SPVs are generally those SPVs which are started with a very tiny capital, which do not have much independence than its sponsor. That means the people who are promoting these SPVs, if you want to do that, or they can be simply treated as a subsidiary of the promoter. So, if you want to do that, then in that case you have to decide that what should be the holding stake in that particular company or type of investment which you are looking from your partner, and what kind of a control which you wanted to give to your partner. So, off balance sheet SPV are generally promoted by many of the government firm, or where you wanted to have kind of kind of a kind of a business which is not really cutting edge, or maybe you wanted to use that particular SPV for developing particular R&D. So, these are the in those particular case of balance sheet SPV are good. Or if you wanted to get a tax benefit because through this particular process, or maybe if you wanted to have kind of matter address for the workman to benefiting your workmans, or something like that. In those circumstances, it's good to have off balance sheet SPV. Then at the time of drafting the memorandum and article of the association, you should keep in the mind the capability of acquiring, holding and dispose of the assets by this particular SPV. So, if they tomorrow wanted to do a spin off, then there should be sufficient provision for that, or even they wanted to go for acquisition, there should be some provision relating to that, or if they want to go for a merger, then it should allow, that constitution should allow. There is nowadays there is a lot of triangle merger is happening, either it is a reverse triangle or triangle merger. So, you should have that particular provision intact. Triangle merger are those merger wherein the subsidiary of a particular company is merged with another company. So, for the business purpose you do this kind of activity. Now, you should make it sure that SPV stands on its own feet, is ownership, funding, management, and it achieves arm's length relationship, which I am repeating again and again, and which is one of the mantra for success of a joint venture as well as SPV, because it has been seen most of the cases the SPV failed because of this. So, I'll advise to you that when you are framing the terms and condition, or framing the conditionality or the matter in the constitution of the company, you should keep this thing in mind. Well, next is it's well said that creating the SPV is easy, but maintaining the SPV is difficult. Why? Because there might be operational issues, there might be cultural issues, there might be a risks which you have not adequately thought of while you have entering into the joint venture agreement or the SPV, or there is a change in a business condition or business environment where you wanted to operate. So, I will advise to you that you should have a flexibility built in within the constitution of the SPV. So, as the circumstances change or the business environment change, you should able to adjust it. And if there is a conflict, I have talked with you a lot when I was discussing about the JV agreement, you should have an adequate internal mechanism to address this conflict resolution. Now, you should look into the secretarial compliances, then the board meeting, general meeting as prescribed the law, then statutory filing, statutory registration, and filing of the forms and returns. That means, whatever the disclosure is prescribed by the different law under which you are operating, you need to comply with that. And as I have discussed with you, if you are in public limited company or if you have incorporated a public listed company, then the compliance is very high. Please do remember, not only you have to file the normal returns, but you have to be careful about the corporate governance norm. And if your return goes a particular level or touches a particular level, then you might need to have a CSR policy inbuilt within your system. So this is a complex process, and you should plan it from the day one, or there should be compliance, a good compliance mechanism should be built in, and if you do that, it manage your most of the operational risks. The board of director in such subsidiaries are employee in most of the cases of the holding company. So the meeting are reduced in a formality, but you should not do that. You should do the meeting as it is a meeting of this particular organization, because as I have told to you that you should promote this organization as independent to its sponsor or the promoter. Now, non-compliance of the provision might create trouble, and this might be create an unnecessary delay the moment you wanted to separate. That means you want to exit from that particular SPV, because as I told you in the beginning, SPVs are for generally specific time and specific purposes. So once that particular purpose is over, you might want to exit. So if you are not complying the law or the process or regulation of that particular sector, it might create a problem for you. So therefore, creating a SPV must be considered after deliberating all other points available, and when you have a really great deal of clarity on the different aspects which I have discussed in the joint venture agreement, strategic alliance agreement, and relating to the promoters agreement, or in the formation of the SPV. So SPV should be a conscious decision, and while you are promoting the SPV, you should be very clear about all the aspects which you might imagine or which you might foresee that you are going to face in the future. Thank you.